live here, and we can see everybody.
And recording?
Should be. Over here we go.
Okay, everyone, let's try pulling our microphones close and taking off the phone that seemed to work well the last time. And then, seeing as though it's 5:30, I'll call the meeting to order. The special council meeting of Monday, December 28th, 2020, 5:30 p.m. here at City Hall. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming tonight, for making this special meeting time, especially Jen, who is apparently in the Outer Banks. And it looks like you have a decent signal there, Jen, and please, of course, anyone who is online who has any issues with sound, please let us know and we will do our best to accommodate. First, if we could call to order, if we could proceed with a roll call.
Warren Tulowitzki.
I'm here.
Karen Spears Novacek.
Here.
Bob Imus.
Here.
McGrath.
Here.
Jen Mazias.
Here.
Carl Broberg.
Here.
Dave Anderson. Here.
And then the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we do have a short agenda with only a couple of items. That first item is for presentations and discussion on proposals from Dan Hudson and Badger Polish. The order has not been determined yet. We will be drawing names since both parties did want to present in the same order second. So we will go ahead and draw names for that, and then what we'll do is we'll flip the order for the closing statements, if that works for everyone. So first of all, I just wanted to thank both of you. I just am so thrilled that we have two such solid proposals for this building that is such an important part of Washburn's downtown. And I know that this is not easy to put together a plan and have it ironed out enough on the front end before really knowing whether you're going forward with the plan. So thank you for your patience and for your time that you've put into this. Having said that, as far as the process goes, I just want to check in with the council here. We'll do opening presentation number 1, and then opening presentation number 2, and then questions for everyone. Does that sound acceptable?
That's fine.
And then we'll proceed to closing statements. Scott, do you have the names that we can put in the hat?
You folks want to save the trouble, we really don't mind going first. We don't care.
Okay, sure.
It's all good.
That's great. Then we'll save the time.
Cool with you guys?
Yeah.
Good? Yeah.
All right, thank you. And if you don't mind stepping up to the mic, and please do take care to speak directly into the mic.
I'm just going to get it adjusted here.
Sure.
John, you're taller than I am. You're going to have an issue, buddy.
Badger, do you want your slides right away?
Yeah, sure. No.
Figure out. Can
All right, that's
everybody
pretty good.
see that?
Good enough?
I'll scooch to the side so I can see both.
Laura, can you see that?
I can, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, how's the mic working on my end, okay?
I'm not sure what it is. Can you hear Badger online, everyone?
Yep.
Oh,
Yep,
okay.
we can hear them.
Okay.
Okay, good deal. Try and be clear. So anyway, hello. Can't thank the council members enough for the time and the energy here and giving us a shot to present our proposal.
Sorry, I'm gonna interrupt you. Do we have feedback from someone here? Or someone online? Can you mute?
If folks online could make sure they're muted, that would be appreciated.
I can go through real quick. But I think we are getting feedback from you, Badger.
Yeah, it's
From from the mic?
from his iPad, perhaps?
Does everyone, are the computers here both muted or have the speakers turned off?
Let's make sure my family has their iPad muted.
All right, give us 1 second here. Can you both check your...
I honestly don't know what that would be.
Audio settings, everyone?
Calling turkey?
Doesn't sound like it's us. Maybe
I think we need to turn these speakers down.
Yeah.
because it's a different speaker.
And then the speakers in the room, is there an issue with that?
Is this any better?
Okay, let's try again.
Check, check. Check, check.
Okay, I think that did it.
All right, good deal.
Yes.
So anyway, I should introduce myself. Many folks know me and a few may not. So I'm Badger Polish. Hi. Basically, a little bit about my background is I moved up here in '89. I went to Northland College where I met my incredible wife, whom I refer to as the goddess. You will all know her as Amy, and you'll recognize her smiling face at the Ashland Post Office. We graduated Northland and moved away for about 6 months, because that's about how longer it took us to figure out where we wanted to call home and raise a family, and we promptly moved back to the peninsula and have been here ever since. Our daughter Angel went to school in Washburn here, some of you may remember her, and she moved to Texas where she lives with my grandson and her family. And our son Calder is in 7th grade in Washburn here. So we're just in love with our little neck of the woods. As far as my professional background goes, I primarily work as a brewing consultant. And what that means is I design, install, and commission craft breweries. And that can be anything from project management to QC, safety, operations improvement at breweries, to just recipe design, and sometimes I even get to make beer these days, believe it or not. So that's what I do professionally. And my travels take me all over North America, including Canada primarily, and I've also had opportunities to travel internationally, and I've done breweries in Tema in Ghana, West Africa, and another brewery in Bengaluru, India, which is their IT capital, and there's actually a booming craft beer scene there as well. It was pretty cool. And lastly, I was able to do a brewery on Bermuda. I was inside this giant Spanish fort, and Bermuda was cool. I guess, just saying. So, a little bit about what brings me to this is that most of my friends would tell you that what I do lets me be part of what craft breweries bring to a community. I'm part of that new energy. I'm part of how they galvanize communities, and I've been doing this a long time. And my friends will attest that it has been my goal to bring that back to where I live. And fortunately or unfortunately, COVID has left me enough time with travel bans that I've been able to work on a plan and start to move that forward, and that's what brings me here. Get the next slide, Tom. Thank you. So a little bit about the vision. I should clarify for those that are wondering, the name Lost Apostle Brewing. Well, that comes from it's an homage to our Lost Apostle Island, known as Steamboat Island. It used to be just south of Eagle Island and was washed away in a storm in 1901. So that's where that derives from, for those of you that are still scratching your heads. And a little bit about our vision now. So our vision is to create a destination brew pub, ideally situated in the middle of the Bayfield Peninsula here in Washburn. As it says there, we are developing a fully codified vision for a vibrant business instead of merely creating another rental property on another main street. That's not what we're interested in doing. We're trying to create a business that's going to help support the community and move us forward. Breweries are destinations. They give folks a reason to stop and explore an area, and it's a phenomenon known as craft beer tourism. And it would help attract an entirely new demographic, and I would also say that some of that demographic is already here, and they're looking for more of what they seek. And we're hoping to provide that. Next slide, Tony, please. So, touching on some of the benefits and highlights of what a brewery brings to a community. Brew pubs are an inherent part of the community for locals. They serve as both a place to gather and a place to work. This was driven home to me some time ago when I was heading to visit a friend and fellow songwriter, L.J. Booth. And L.J. lives in Amherst, Wisconsin. And so when I was heading down there, I stopped by a brewery my friends Paul and Anello created. And their little town of 1,000 people, I wanted to see what they came up with. And their brewery is called Central Waters. So I walked into Central Waters about 4:30 in the afternoon on a Friday, and what I see are locals there grabbing a pint and basically a growler or packaged beer to go for the weekend. The best part of it was they had their family with them, so there were kids. And there's kids playing board games and what have you. And what really blew me away is there's about 4 or 5 of them roller skating around the entire brewing space, because their bar was centralized right in the middle. There was just a cooler with a bar built around. There's these kids roller skating around. All I could think is, that's what this is about. Perfect. Loved it. That's not to say that I'm going to be able to have kids roller skating around the brewery. That sounds like a bit of a liability, but I think it illustrates the point. That's what's behind brew pubs. Job creation is another thing we bring to a community, and we expect to employ about 4 full-time employees at the onset with 8 to 10 FTE jobs, and more as we expand. Pretty self-explanatory there. And lastly, we will work to directly support the ecosystem of our local businesses. As bread will be an essential part of our sandwich menu, we'll look to our neighboring bakery, Coco's, to play a major role in our operation. Furthermore, we've got other things in proximity of us. We've got across the road a place doing artisanal chocolates and ice creams. We have local growers around here, which we certainly intend to work with. It goes without saying that we have Serafina Farms, we have Maple Hill Farms, and those raw ingredients will be part of our menu options. We have no interest in doing what everyone else is already doing so well. We're only looking to augment what we have to offer here and do our own thing. Next slide, Tom. Supporting our community. Before I get into this, let me clarify a little bit about what a brew pub is, because a lot of folks don't know the difference between a brew pub and a production brewery and how that works. So as a brew pub, we sell the majority of our beer through taps. unlike production breweries, which they sell the majority of their product through distribution channels. As brew pubs, we also have the ability to offer foods as well as wine and spirits. And brew pubs are also able to do off-sale via our retail space, and we're allowed to self-distribute as well. And we intend to take full advantage of local accounts and establish those relationships as well. So all ships rise with the tide. In short, we wish to grow the pie, not divide it up. Again, it is not our intention to slice up the pie that's here. We feel there's potential here to grow it. We think Washburn is becoming known for these types of destinations, and we think we're a perfect fit. For our food offerings, we intend to have a very focused menu, primarily soup, sandwiches, and appetizers. And to that end, as it says up there, we will have alternate menus on site, as well as food policy that allows food to be brought in from other restaurants. And we want to augment what our town has to offer and grow the area as a whole. That is part and parcel with what we do. It's not our interest in doing what they do so well. If you want a burger, you're going to Patsy's, and I don't know about you all, but I don't know who doesn't like bacon jam. Pizza, flat out, nobody is doing better than Duluth's. Chef Dale is doing Zen level stuff over there, and love it. And pub food, I'm a huge fan of Scotch eggs, and frankly, the Snug is knocking it out of the park. So if you don't know what those are, you should. With our centralized location, we think we're perfectly positioned to offer access to these options to the whole Asheville Bay region, and even out toward Cornucopia, and Washburn is becoming known for a destination for these sorts of things. Our menu will feature offerings from our local producers, and not only food, but wine and spirits. And you can see we will serve locally produced wine and spirits. We have Copper Crow, we've got White Winter, Pikes Creek Vickery, and Bayfield Winery, alongside our own beers and seltzers. Furthermore, we will have non-alcoholic options for sure. We're actually looking at producing kombucha as well, as it seems to be something we're already outfitted to do, not terribly difficult to do, and provided that we can do that well and of quality, we'll run with it, and if we can't, we'll seek out other producers and support them if we feel they're doing the right thing. That's what it's all about. We plan to host and participate in events that will create opportunities for our town to come together and raise funds for our community.
Andrew, I have a note. Could you speak up?
Oh, absolutely. So we plan to participate in events such as Book Across the Bay and other fundraisers, as well as host events of our own. It's our full intent to do things like thank you nights for the folks that make up the backbone of our community here. Teachers, first responders, other volunteers. These are the community events are central to our mission, and it will be part of our mission statement. In the last years, I can't even recall a brewery that hasn't had a wedding booked before it opened its doors. So we're looking to expand on, like we said here, we'll offer a gathering place and optional venue for mid-size events, business meetings, weddings, and more. We hope to carry on in the spirit of local VFWs and supper clubs. That's what it was in small towns, and that's what brew pubs were prior to those, believe it or not, before Prohibition. And we're just looking to get back to that and provide that kind of centralized space and most importantly, common ground. Finally, we want to honor the building's history by offering a music venue of ideal size that's lacking in our area. Some of you folks may know that I am actually a singer-songwriter, musician as well. I used to perform on top of the Bayfield Inn every weekend for many summers, and I'm acutely aware of the lack of venues here. I'm hoping to provide some more of that, because we have what I would call a plethora of local talent here, musicians and artists like nowhere else, and I think we could use the extra venue for that. So Floridian Slip, Room to Groove, Alpha City, if you guys are listening, hint, hint, we got space for you. Next slide, Tony. The location here at 204 Bayfield is ideal for Lost Apostle, and we feel it not only offers the perfect location for what we have to offer, but a world of possibility for future growth and development. So we will serve as a cornerstone and catalyst for further development of the Omaha Street property, breathing new life into the marina and waterfront area. Our endeavor, excuse me, our endeavors tie directly to adventure-based tourism, serving as a waypoint for exploration of the region via biking, kayaking, hiking, and beyond. Being 2 blocks from both, this is a distance for me to read in that print. Being 2 blocks from both snowmobile trails and the marina, we can act as a liaison and local ambassadors for the region. And our parking and green space will further encourage folks to stay a little longer and explore more of the area. We will provide additional lodging for regional visitors, with plans to offer recreational packages in conjunction with other local businesses. And lastly up there is we happen to be a utility user. As water is the main ingredient in beer, and we have some of the best on the planet, I can attest to that firsthand. We use 10 barrels for every barrel of production. And so we're hoping to work toward bringing the water plant closer to solvency. All these, combined with the space we're creating, will not only serve to attract visitors, but also serve to further enhance the quality of offerings to those who already call or wish to call our region home. It is our sincere hope and goal to create an avenue and a jump-off point to experience what our region has to offer, both inside and outside our doors. Next slide, please. Breweries generate buzz before a single beer is served. We will be leveraging this anticipation for our town region from the time we have commitment until we officially open our doors. Folks are dying to travel these days, and we're hoping to work that and put it out there and give them a new place to go, because they're so anxious to do it. And that's something that my marketing team and I will fully leverage from the onset. As you can see up there, I just want to reiterate, to date, we have been proactive and acting in good faith. And I want that to be an indicator of what we'll be like going forward. We're totally proactive and fully communicative. Some of the things we've done is we've approached the mayor and city directly with our concept, as well as reached out to other business owners for their thoughts and input. We've secured an agreement to purchase the adjacent property, and we continue to invest time, effort, and resources. These efforts include establishing our business entity and marketing team, beginning key personnel placement, preemptively reaching out to potential investors, and continuing to formulate a thorough business plan that mitigates risk of failure for all participants involved while ensuring longevity. So we just want to be forthright with what we've been doing, and we've been trying to communicate that from day one and being transparent about it. I'd like to probably hand this over to John now, because I think you've listened to me long enough, and he'll introduce himself and talk a little bit about how we create the spaces and promote the energy and feel that I've just described, and what role those spaces have in communities. Thanks for the time.
Thanks, Frederick.
You bet.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. How do you do this? I'll try to do this.
Or you could just hold it if you want.
I'll do this. As Badger said, my name is John Grzina. I'm an architect with DSGW Architects. Offices in the Twin Ports, Duluth area, and we have one down in the Twin Cities. I'm a managing principal. I'm an architect. Been doing this for, I guess this year I'll be going on 40 years. I'm actually a resident. I've been a part-time resident since 2004, full-time since 2015. And unbeknownst to Badger and I, we all kind of ran and had mutual acquaintances who introduced us, and one day Badger gave me a call and said, hey, I got this idea, would you be interested in helping me? So he explained it and he showed it, we took a tour of the building. I said, yeah, I'd be more than happy, it's what we do. A little history about my firm. We do a lot of hospitality, done a number of projects in this area here. I was the architect for the Hull Adventure Center over in Bayfield. If you've been to Duluth, I was the architect for Pier B Resort, which is on the waterfront. In addition to that, a lot of restoration. And so it was work that's right up our alley. One of the mainstays, one of the silos in our firm, as we call it, is hospitality and retail. And so I said, well, let's take a look. So if you could advance a couple of slides, please. One more. So, in addition to me, Badger is also working with a marketing ad agency. And what they started doing is, in fact, we do the same thing too from a design standpoint, is when we first start meeting with a client, is we put together inspiration boards, just photos of things that pique the interest of the client. Part of the reason we do that, it gives us an understanding as to what their vision is, what they're trying to achieve, and then it becomes kind of a roadmap for us to start introducing those things into the design of the building. So as you look at these photos here, just some of the things that we're trying to achieve is, the building has the opportunity for a lot of natural light. Lots of, we have some good opportunity for great indoor space. And I'll get kind of talk a little bit about the building as I get further into my presentation. Painted signage, again, it's already on the building, and again, that's kind of one of those things that just earmarks these sorts of buildings back in historical times, and you're seeing a lot more of it as these projects get developed. And then fire pits, places to gather, trying to work with the reclaimed nature of the building. And you can see the biggest chuckle I got was the picture of the Badger. Not sure where it came from, but that's pretty cool.
We're not having a giant Badger.
Yeah, and I think, as we all know, that there's a reason why that's there, but that was just part of the marketing team having a little fun. But it goes towards the personality of what we're trying to accomplish here. So next slide, please. So one of the things, whenever we approach these sorts of projects is, especially with old buildings, they have a cool factor, but you got to be careful. You got to be careful because if you're not, you can find yourself in the middle of a money pit. And so that's my job as an architect, is to work with the owner to design something that's achievable, that's within budget, but yet doesn't really get so invasive that you're almost reconstructing the building. So what we wanted to do was work with the bones of the existing building, and in this case here, so the upper portion is the brick that's there now. The gray portion is the stucco that was applied sometime in time, and then from kind of there down to the sidewalk is everything sort of gets rebuilt. And I think, as you can see, we're working with the massing of the building. We're working with the streetscape of Washburn, and trying to incorporate a little bit of old, a little bit of new. It is a retail space. It's going to be a space that we want to create buzz, and so we're wanting to use elements that achieve that. The big dark gray band that goes across horizontally, that's doing two things. It gives that marquee that was pretty common with buildings of this age. And the other thing it does is, that's a lot of where the if you were to go look at that building, that's where there's some holes in the wall and things. So that kind of helps us kind of cover those things up and keep that nice and solid and weather tight. And then as we go down below from there, we start introducing storefront. You can see the big glass doors. We want to introduce some wood. We're not sure if it's going to be real wood or a composite wood, but again, it brings that warmth. It's what this area is. And again, you can see, working with some of the recesses that we're assuming were part of the old theater back in the day, but now, instead of them being marquees for what's playing, it's going to be marquees for what's brewing. And then you can see reintroducing the signage painted on the side of the building, and basically just cleaning it up, making it solid. The projection sign, the big beard with an arrow. Right now, as we develop this, that's all part of the branding and the imaging. Eventually, that's going to be whatever the brand and image for the brewing Lost Apostle, is. I think what we're, really saying is, we want some kind of a projection sign there. It's what you would, 80 years ago you would expect it on a building like this, and it really goes hand in hand with, what needs to be achieved in here. It really goes hand in hand with this whole notion of, when you talk about supper clubs and some of those old clubs, kind of what happened there. Next slide, please. And this just, kind of shows how we want to engage the backyard of the building. Just kind of have a nice little streetscape stepping stone walk that gets you back into kind of a small enclosed area where people can kind of hang out. There are some nice views back there with proper access right back into the brewery itself. And again, as you can see, just working with the existing brick masonry, you can see the windows are going to get replaced, and just going through and making sure the building, from the exterior, is solid and weather tight. Next slide, please. I'll let you read that. And next slide, please. Yep. So, this is not going to be a bar, for lack of a better term. When you start looking at breweries, and especially this kind of brewery, and again, going back to Badger's comments, when you think about the image of old supper clubs, which were, in a way, kind of your mom's living room and dining room, they were quaint. They were where people could hang out. When I first started talking to Badger, he said, I want a place where people can come in and kind of lose themselves in the afternoon, just playing cards or just, lounging about and just being comfortable. So, that's some of these images that you're seeing here, again, from an inspiration board standpoint, is working with the interior of the building. So the building has good bones. When we walk through the interior, and when we've approached these projects before, we've always taken the tack, you want to work, you want to work with what's there, not fight it. And as you walk through the inside, there's some really cool features to the building, which is basically just the old structure, the old stone walls, the old plaster, the old wood joists for the floors. It all kind of, this term eclectic, that's exactly what that is. It's kind of a mishmash of a little bit of everything, but when you put it all together, it just has this really nice, pleasant, comfortable atmosphere, which is really what we're trying to achieve here. Natural light, again, Badger keeps using the word transparent. He doesn't want a dark, dingy bar. He wants lots of windows so as people walk by, they can see what's going on inside. Wants to have to be very, very transparent. Greenery, again, kind of the things you would expect in a building such as this. The biggie is, you go into some of the new bars where they have tables and chairs and booths crammed so close together to maximize capacity that you have to walk sideways to get from point A to point B. We're not doing that here. You can see a lot of lounge type areas separated by partition walls, a variety of seating, a variety of places where people can gather and congregate. What we're seeing as time moves forward, socialization is a big thing, and especially for people just to sit around in lounge furniture and chat as opposed to sitting at a bar or sitting at a table. Next slide, please. So these are very conceptual, and if you're been into the building, so there's 3 bays because of what we're looking at. I'll just say the upper, the middle, and the lower. So the middle bay, the old theater, that's the concrete portion of the building. The upper bay, that's the wood portion, and then the lower bay is that kind of little wing added to this on the side of the building. So basically, a big chunk of this is going to be the brewery operation, and you can see that happening in be the, we'll call it the southwest corner, where you can see the actual brew house. And then the cellars is the place where the big vats will be that hold the beer. And then around that is just going to be the open area for the actual bar. And again, as you look at the plan, you're not going to see a lot of close together tables and chairs. Most of that is comfort seating. It's meant to be spread out. It's meant for people to sit around and converse and play cards. And again, the Cold Badger lose themselves in an afternoon just gathering with friends. Some of the things we're having to deal with is reworking the stairway up to the second floor. We're having to rework and deal with the existing projection booth. But again, I won't get into those details. It's things that can get worked out, and it's things that we've been taking into account as we get into this. One of the things that we are using to our advantage is, again, if you've been in there, the back portion of the middle part of the building is recessed, and that's going to stay. That's actually working in favor of the operation of the brew house, and it'll be separated from the rest of the bar by a wall, but big plate glass windows. So as people come walking in, that's kind of the image is what they see is the big brew house operation happening right in front of them. You can see the lower portion, the kitchen area, and then we get into the public restrooms, and then in the lower left corner, that would be the exterior area where we can start developing the kind of an enclosed courtyard for exterior seating and where people can kind of hang out and flow from inside to outside. Next slide, please. And then upstairs, one of part of Badger's operational plan is to be able to have rental type units for adventuring and vacationing people. And these are just simple lodging units that would happen in the middle portion of the building, and then the upper portion, right now is just slated for multi-use event space that could be used for any multitude of activities. Next slide, please. I think we're getting towards the end. Yep, we are. So I'll just finish up with, and again, if you walk through there, this is what you would see right now, and really we're going to work with it and not fight it, and just is get these things, bring new life into them, make them part of the architecture and the interior design of the building, and help all of it just going to create what really is going to be a really nice space both on the interior and the exterior of the building. Next slide, please. And again, to finish up, a lot of things I've already been talking about is how we want to create the space using dividers, tall booths, and you can see those in the lower right, and they're more like a couch setting than traditional booths. Got to have a fireplace in this area. That's the perfect gathering space. Different mixtures of lighting that helps kind of create mood and atmosphere from one spot to the next. And then seating. And again, I've already talked about that, but just having a variety of seating that'll handle different types of groups and whatever setting they wish to do within the building. And I believe I'm towards the end of my slides. One more, please. Yeah. So with that said, I guess Badger, I don't know if you want to close with anything, but that's the end of my presentation from the building standpoint. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Mr. Hudson. You're up.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm not as technical. I'm kind of a construction guy. So I actually have some handouts. Is that okay?
Sure. Absolutely. You didn't happen to submit anything electronically to share virtually?
This was just given me basically today. I was working with a couple of different contractors on this. So
okay.
I've been trying to put everything together. So that's what's... Well, it's going to be a little hard because the people that are on the Zoom side might not get to see some of this stuff.
Sure.
I apologize ahead of time, but like I said, I just received it today. There should be one for Max too. We don't want to leave him out.
Social distancing, I get excluded.
Maybe it's on purpose, I don't know. Did you need one of these? Okay. Just help speed it up. You mind if I pass out? Might as well help speed her up a little bit. Yeah.
What I will do is I will quickly scan these through and we can share them.
Okay, Scott is going to go ahead and scan that in and email it out to our council members that are virtual. And everyone else will have to see it online, perhaps as an addendum to the packet afterwards.
Should I wait for Scott?
I think we can probably go ahead, people can hear you talk, so you can talk us through it and then they can get the materials when we get them.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. My name is Dan Hudson. I'll give you a little bit of background about me, just experience-wise. I got a couple of years experience as a concrete laborer. I did 2.5 years as a maintenance manager at Augsburg College down in the Twin Cities. I was in charge of 23 buildings. I was in charge of all maintenance and/or remodels and new additions to the college. I also am a master plumber. I got 25 years as a master plumber working on projects from new builds to remodels, from restaurants to apartment buildings to multi-level, whatever you can think of I've done. Type deal down in the Twin Cities. I also have a couple of rental properties in the area. I have 5 buildings between Ashland and Washburn, and which I have 13 units available, or not available, sorry. I don't want to get calls on that. We're full on everything, but I got 13 rental units, and plus I got a small hotel in Ashland that I just remodeled, the Lakeside Motel over in Ashland. Which is doing outstanding. We've been 5-star reviews since we've opened the doors. So with that, I was a building coordinator for 2 years too. I used to build ground up houses down in the Twin Cities. I did that for 2 years. So a little bit about the building. Do you have any of my stuff, Scott?
That's recorded up now.
Okay.
Hope so.
It should have been in that packet. That's the stuff we just scanned in.
You want the stuff that you previously distributed?
Yeah. Sorry. Again, bear with me. It's I'm more of a blue collar guy instead of a computer junkie.
Is there something else I should show, Scott?
Yes. 1 second.
Okay.
Something that was on there. It was in a packet that we received.
I just sent you another document. You want the presentation?
I appreciate you guys doing that. I'm not quite prepared on the computer stuff.
Who's ever really completely prepared for computer stuff is the question.
That's all I can say is thank God for my kids, because when it comes to it, I just hand it to them and they do it. It's easier.
Right, you'll have to
There.
tell me
Yep,
this what
yep, that'd be it. That's my front facade of the building. So with that, you'll notice that I didn't go to color because I didn't have a lot of time to pick out colors for the plan. But what we're going to do with that is we're going to take and we're going to do a new scratch coat on the front of the building. Do you see how there's no lines in the light portion below the brick? That's going to be all smooth, and we're going to put it's going to be one solid color on the front of that, along with new awnings, and we're going to have new storefronts, windows, doors, but we're going to leave the brick on top because you see how it gets dark around in the center like that? It just stands out. I love the architecture of that building, how to me that's screaming signage up in that area of some sort. But anyhow, so we're going to do all new windows with everything around, new doors, new and new awnings. It's going to be new windows and doors all the way around the whole building. I don't think I have a picture of the back of the building, but what we're going to do on the back of the building, we're going to have a new deck that's going to be for entrance and exit for the apartments that we're going to have up on the top floor. On the side of the building, that would be the parking lot side that used to be towards Langford Drug over there, on that empty lot side. That's going to be all new windows and doors on that side too. Basically, the whole building needs a little bit of love, so we're going to give it all new windows, doors. We're going to end up with all new everything. So that's the front facade of what we've come up with so far. But again, I mean, I apologize, I don't have side and rear views, but I can talk as we go through kind of the layout. You'll see some of the stuff, but you just won't be able to see the outside of the building. So if you go to the next slide, that's basically that's the main floor that we're looking at right now. I have a different one, but it's going to be wide open because, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I'm going to do with that after I get done talking about the whole building. I have a whole new idea that I was waiting for some numbers to come back, but I'm actually looking at turning that space into a retail space, and which is a beautiful thing because I'll show you when we get into the study that I passed out with you guys that's online. You guys covered all this information it's a gorgeous thing you did for us. It makes life a lot easier. So, but the first floor is going to be wide open, and we're looking at retail space on that. If you go to the next one. The next one covers the apartments upstairs. If you notice, there's 4 apartments upstairs. Each apartment's going to be right around 1,100 square feet. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, right.
It's going to be bigger than the whole building. But no, each apartment's going to be about 1,100 square feet with all brand new mechanicals, brand new electrical, lighting, walls, plumbing. Everything is going to be brand new up there. But what we're trying to utilize is the lower space and bring that into the upper space. And you'll notice that the bedrooms are on the side facing like Langford Drugs and the little building on the side there, because we can still utilize those windows, trying to keep our costs down, but yet making it light and airy in there. I'm just looking at it, new kitchens. You'll see, if you notice on the side towards Coco's Bakery, you'll notice there's a hallway going all the way from front to back of the building. Each apartment's going to have its own entrance there, but we're utilizing 2 entry-exit points just for code for fire protection. And you'll notice that the one in the back of the building goes out to a deck. That's going to be a brand new deck on that side of the building with a new staircase and everything. We're gonna try and utilize the same stairway that's in the building, in the front of the building. So we're gonna keep that. And you'll notice right in the alcove of the staircase there, that's gonna be a laundry unit for the people that'll be staying there. Because, I mean, the one thing, again, when we get into this study, you guys covered how the need for residential apartments in the area, which is, I'm trying to give you 4 high-end ones. And with these, I'm looking at rent right around the $800 a month range for 1,100 square feet, which is pretty nice, especially for a new unit. And when you calculate those numbers out, we come out with about $3,200 just for a profit on the upstairs. And one of the reasons I went over some of my rental properties is because I want you guys to know my background a little bit and my history with rental properties, because I know what the demand and the call is in the area. I mean, Washburn's an awesome community, a great school district, and it's sought after. I mean, my rental properties in Washburn honestly last about 2 weeks before they fill. And I don't even usually advertise, it's just them filling that quick. So, I mean, with those 4 units up top, I'm not worried one bit about that. And the nice thing about those units up top is they help with the sustainability of that building, because it helps my costs stay down a little bit more, where I don't have to, I don't have to worry about the building ever going empty again just because of those units up top. So if we go to the next slide, oh, there's is that one? No, okay, that's the parking lot. That we need a little bit of work on. That was just a quick, trying to give you an outside facade look that we are going to be putting parking there. But I want to add some more parking spots, because I think we're going to need it because of the retail space that I'm going to be putting downstairs. Okay, next slide. What do we have? Okay, that's it for those. Let's go into, let's see, the ones that you just scanned in. Scott, do you have those? Okay. This is a copy of the study that was done in 2017 for Washburn. It's online. I think it covers the empty lots and stuff down by the coal dock, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, but it also covers business and residential units in the area. So if you go to the next page on that, right at the top of that next page, it says that 96% of respondents felt the city needed to assist with creation of additional housing options to meet the current needs of the population. That was in 2017, and it's not gotten any better. Unless, am I missing something on that? Has it gotten better for rental properties? Okay.
Yeah.
So that's one of the main reasons that pushes me towards the rental properties up on top of the building, to help give the city what they're looking for that, and to help the people, because these are going to be brand new units, quality rentals at a pretty economical price. So if we go to the next page, I'm kind of going quick, I apologize. The next page, what I did is the ones that are highlighted right there, those are the ones that show that of businesses that we don't need in town. So as I was looking at the property and the space downstairs, I look back on my time as a kid in Washburn. When I grew up here, my mom and dad had a restaurant, the Red Barn Cafe, down on the other end of town. They had that for 20 years. So I grew up in the restaurant business, but I remember zipping through town on my bike with my buddies. And I don't know if anybody remembers back in the day, Orly Low. We used to stop in Orly Lowe's with your 10 cents and put that into the pop machine. And he'd make you sit there the whole time because you didn't give him 10 cents for the deposit on that pop bottle. So you had to drink it down. And then we used to go to Sandy's quite a bit for a crunch cone. But we always used to go to the Ben Franklin. And that's the one thing I miss about town is the Ben Franklin, because you had Mrs. Swedberg work there, Shirley Ledeen worked there, and you had Mary Jo Marilla that used to manage it. And I mean, those people were like everybody's grandma. And that's what I miss out of town, is having that opportunity for the young people to come through and have that as a retail space. So I'm bouncing around a little bit, but you'll kind of see what I'm getting after. The reason I say that is because in Washburn right now, there's not much for retail. I mean, we have a lot of great stores, but the problem is we're losing a lot of those sales in those stores. They're going over to Ashland. So when there's products in town that you can't get, so people just go to Ashland and get it. And if they're going to go to Ashland, they might as well stop by Walmart and pick up some food or whatever. So we're missing that downtown bond to keep people and just necessities in town. And that's what I'm looking at doing. I'd like to create that memory that I used to have as a kid at the Ben Franklin. I want a small hometown type retail place that allows you to get some of the things that are not highlighted on this list. Like I said, you guys did the research. This is the people in town telling everybody what they need for downtown to grow. And I think I just want to say thank you for doing this research, because it gave me a lot of less headaches just to be able to pull this up. If you look at it, I mean, I don't know, can everybody online see what that is? You just see some of the ones that are highlighted. And those are the ones, when I go through, I look at the ones that are highlighted, and those I know we have an abundance of. So those are ones I stay away from when I'm looking at starting a business, because I want a building that's going to sustain itself, it's going to help the community, and it's going to grow. I don't want to have to worry about seasonal or anything else. I want this building to prosper. And that's the one nice thing with having those rental properties up top, because that can help with the loan payment on that. And then we also have another business for downstairs. So next, that's it for that.
You want this one?
That's it. That's the key one. There we go. That's the one I just got today. That's basically what the inside of the building, those lighter rectangles, that's shelving for product that we can put on the shelves. So we're looking at about 5,000 square feet of retail space for downtown. And with the products that we're going to put in there, I don't want to do a franchise in it, because I think a franchise, well, for one, I don't like to pay for a franchise, and two, I think they're kind of on the lesser side of a small town. I think what we need is something that's more of a hometown, something that's going to be part of the community, something that's going to help grow the community. And I mean, the way I look at it is I look at senior days, having a senior day at the store to give discounts to seniors. I'm a firm believer in a discount for cops. I'm a firm believer of emergency workers. I mean, we do that at the motel right now. I mean, and military. I'm retired military, 22 years. So we take care of the people that put their feet in the way to help protect us. So that's kind of everything in a nutshell of what I've come up with. I know it was quick and fast, and I probably threw a lot at you, and I apologize, but I didn't want to come to you with this store idea. I was working on it when I was here the first time, but I didn't have any solid numbers, and I wanted to make sure it was something that can be a reality and we can press forward with this. That is the main reason why you didn't receive anything the last time I was here, because I was still working the deal and I didn't know where the numbers were going to come in, and I didn't want to pitch something that I can't pull off. All right, I'm going to let John take over.
On
on that note, I'm kind of looking at this as a bit of a check the box on Dan's behalf. Looking at what not only Max has sent out in a letter as what the council is looking for, but overall, how do you make sure that, one, that this building that's been sitting here as an eyesore for how many years actually gets rehab, and we actually get something in there that's sustainable, and that whoever gets this opportunity actually can fulfill it. So Dan got specs from a contractor as to how much it's going to cost. Just over, it's about $610,000. He's got National Bank of Commerce, who has already indicated that they can put up $350,000. There's a grant out there that has up to $250,000. And what I would highly suggest that the council do with whoever does this, get a standby letter of credit in place. That is for the amount necessary to fulfill the development agreement, less whatever is actually awarded in the grant. So that if something happens, the city can step in and make sure that this building actually gets rehabbed and fixed. We can do that. We've got the finances to put up to get that letter of credit in place to ensure that what Dan is proposing will actually occur. We've seen too many times in this city what happens when developers don't do what they said they're going to do. So let's make sure that what happens, what's being proposed, actually happens. The other aspect I was looking at with Dan here was, how do we make sure that this thing is sustainable so that 10 years from now, what goes in there isn't going to be abandoned and we're left with another vacant building. If you put the apartments up on top, that basically cash flows this whole construction. And it will cash flow so that that the bottom part basically ends up being the profits. The apartments covers the debt service on the construction. So we know that this is sustainable. We know that there's always going to be a need for housing. So we know that the top part is absolutely okay. The bottom part, with the commercial retail, well, I mean, how many times where do you go to buy a toy for a kid's birthday around here? Either Amazon or Ashland, right? We need to have a store that can fulfill the needs that we do not have right now. This isn't in competition with a grocery store or a Nate's hardware store. This is totally separate and fulfills some pretty, vital needs, quite honestly. So I think it fits in with what the community needs are. It fits in with what the city council needs to be looking at in terms of a proposal that can be fulfilled. It's a proposal that can be fulfilled in pretty rapid manner here too. So that's all I have.
Thanks, John. All right. I have to get back and find our agenda here.
Thanks, Scott. I didn't drool that much.
Yeah, we're going to move into questions, and what I think we're going to do is I'm going to go around and just have everyone take a turn asking questions. You can ask one, or you can ask a number of questions, but I'm just going to go around, and then I'll go around again just in case you thought of more questions while we went around. So we might be here a little bit longer. Hopefully you're all right with that. I'm going to go ahead and start this way to my right with Carl.
Okay, the first question that I had for Badger, on page 2 of the executive summary, you have a projected cost of $2,346,962. Do you have a breakdown of that that you can share with us?
Our numbers are not final, and I do not have a breakdown for you. I do have build-out costs, yes. But until we're moving forward, I'm not going to share those costs. Not trying to be duplicitous here, but it's just I don't have final numbers. I can't move this any further forward at this point until I have a commitment from the city. I think I've been forthright and out front from the get-go here, and I do intend to finalize that breakdown. But until it is, I'm not willing to hand anything over. But the final cost there, I think we're about 90% close. Is there something specific you have a thought about?
Well, I was just trying to get an idea of how much was included as building rehab versus the brewery construction.
Yeah, there's a lot of demolition involved for sure. The whole building does need, the whole utilities are useless. The thing definitely needs gutted and taken care of. Asbestos mitigation, etc., is in there as well. And I didn't bring those numbers with me, but provided we're moving forward, I'm happy to sit down with you folks and the Planning Commission and do a further breakdown of that.
So, assuming that it's 90% correct, how do you plan on financing that?
So right now we've got multiple investors, and we've had letters from people that are willing to commit. If you've looked at that package, correct? You looked at the package I sent over?
I looked at the
So yeah, you have letters from investors in there, and plus friends, family, and other people waiting to come on board that I'm not presenting this until it's final. I don't want to rattle anybody's cages. There are people that are waiting in the wings, investment-wise. I understand the concern with my ability to move this project forward. I didn't have a problem moving Canal Park forward. I didn't have a problem moving Cooley Brewing Company in Alberta forward. I'm also working with a brewery right now out in New Jersey. Not a problem. This is what I do.
So, do you have an idea how long it's going to take for a return on investment? for this?
Yeah, usually, and again, this is, I mean, no offense here, but understand that the information you're asking me for to some degree is proprietary. This is what I'm paid to do as a professional, and I am willing to share some projections, but I can't come to you with a fully finished business plan to show those until it's done, and two, I wouldn't be able to display it without an NDA signed. Basically, our projections show 3 to 5 years. 3 years is pretty typical with a brewery, and 5 years definite. 3 years is our
But
average.
the business plan that's included here indicates that you've got 3 phases, and the third phase isn't going to start until for 5 years.
That's correct.
So this project is going to extend out for a period, a relatively long period of time to be complete.
Absolutely. The reason I wouldn't complete it in one fell swoop is because of cash flow. I would not stifle my business, I'm not saying it needs to be profitable in that time. What I'm saying is you need to regulate cash flow. It's everything in a small business. So we're giving ourselves, if you look at that, I'm giving myself basically a year to see how operations pan out before phase 2 starts. And then phase 2 will begin, which would be the upstairs bar area and event space. And then moving on from there, we give ourselves another year to do the final phase. I believe it's actually happening in year 5. So the first year is construction, 1 year full-on operation, phase 2, and then moving on to phase 3.
But some of the work in phase 2 and 3 really needs to take place
Exactly.
in phase 1.
Yes, well said. So the infrastructure is going to be part of phase 1, absolutely. That's a must. So that's why phase 1 is the major portion of it. We're going to do all the infrastructure at the onset, plumbing, mechanical, all that, absolutely. So the infrastructure will be in place.
So you're going to have some fairly significant upfront expenses.
Exactly.
Without revenue coming in, and that's where I'm getting at is
Yes.
the financially sustainable over the period of the entire project.
Yes. So there will be, So with breweries, capital outlay is always at the forefront, and the advantage of that, or it's a disadvantage, but the advantage is the payback is good on a brewery. The profit margins are really good, hence the reason they succeed, unlike restaurants. So what we're doing is getting the cash register turned off, for sure. And again, it's all about cash flow. Get that cash register turned on to start, figure out how things are going to flow, and then implement phase 2 and phase 3.
So you have, because they're so interdependent, you have like a Gantt chart that shows how this is all going to roll out?
I'm sorry, repeat?
You have, because this is so interdependent with activities for phase 2 and phase 3 that have to take place in phase 1, is there a Gantt chart of how this is going to lay out?
Yeah, so as we're developing, as we're doing forecasting and everything, that's part of what we're doing, and we'll be moving forward with that again as we finalize plans and have commitment from you guys. I can't take it any further at this point. I mean, we definitely plan to finalize drawings with John and then our GC and subcontractors as well, so that we can nail down timelines and phases.
What are you asking of the city?
So basically, what I'm asking is a shot at doing this project. To me, you have very little to lose, other than risking a little bit of time.
But what are you asking for our skin in the game here?
In terms of the,
Yeah, in terms of the building, what do you want from us specifically?
basically, the building is what requires a lot of turnaround.
So,
I'm looking for the building and the space, yes.
okay, so we would give you the building.
Yes.
Okay, what is the return to us? Have you got that projected?
Well, I'm an incredible utility user for one. I'm providing jobs to the community. I'm a great tax base for you as well. I think I don't have projections for that return. I don't know what your rates will be at. But again, these are things that I will move forward with commitment from the city.
So, but we have some anticipation that there's going to be a tax base for, we'll be able to tax that building and have revenue coming in addition to the utilities that we're collecting.
Absolutely, I think that's part of the negotiations that we enter, and we figure out how that's going to work out and come to an agreement to how to move this forward. Absolutely.
Can I just interrupt real quick and ask Scott a question? This is in the TID number 2, is it? Number 3. Can you answer the question about when the property taxes would start coming back to the city, please? And this would be regardless of who's developing the property.
So the answer to the question is, so there's the construction year, and then there is the assessment year, and then there is the tax year. So, for example, if somebody constructed a building during 2020, and that building will now be assessed as of what was its status based as of January 1, okay, of 2021, and then that assessment goes through the process throughout the year, and we would then tax that at the end of 2021 for tax year 2022. So there's a 3-year process. And so that is how that works. So some, depending on when construction happens and is it finished before the end of the year or not, that makes a significant difference. So that's the rough outline. The property is within TID 3. There are currently 15 years left in the life of TID 3. So the sooner construction starts within on the building, the better off we would be. That would generate the most increment from us at the expiration of TID 3. Then, of course, that increment gets divided back amongst all of the taxing jurisdictions and goes on the general rolls at that time.
So the city is the sole recipient for that period of time?
The city is the sole recipient during the life of the TID. However, we are restricted as to what that would be used for, but we would basically repay ourselves for the investment that the city has already put in that building through the purchase of the property and for the roof that we did put on that.
Perfect, thank you. Carl, did you have further questions?
Could you describe specifically your role in managing, for instance, the Canal Park Brewery? Were you like prime contractor or subcontractor or
Sure.
consultant?
Sure, great, thanks. Actually, I wrote the business plan for Canal Park Brewing Company and oversaw all aspects of construction regarding the brewery section. So I worked with our neighbor Rocky Kavayats, you may call him Kavacek around these parts. Really depends on which family member you're talking to. So I approached Rocky with a business plan and he financed that. But all aspects of brewery build, equipment choice, etc., that was what I was responsible for.
The building rehab?
Absolutely. I was also responsible for helping to get the grant monies we received to basically knock down the Sprint company and rebuild. From there, I was responsible for everything from grain to glass from that point on, and put a medal on their wall in year one.
Is the ability to go forward with this project dependent on the grant money?
Negative. That's not what the plan is designed around. I'm no fool. I would love the grant money. That's great, but I'm not writing a business plan based that's contingent upon that.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Carl. And
Thanks, Carl.
questions for Dan?
Yeah, I did, but are we gonna go through?
Probably just do him and then him.
Yeah,
So I
okay.
don't have to-
We'll stick with, sure, we can stick with Badger, so you're not hopping up and down,
No problem.
cleaning the microphone every time.
Whatever you guys want
Okay,
to do.
perfect. Mary, do you have any questions for Badger?
Just a couple, please. So first off, I'd like to know what project in New Jersey you're working on?
Sorry, real quick, could you talk into the microphone, please, for the people that are on the, and if you just push your papers to the side and pull it right up close to you, that would be great.
Okay. So, the New Jersey project.
Yeah, Hidden Sands Brewing Company. So Hidden Sands is, well, they're dear friends at this point. I helped them get started a few years back, and now I'm out there revisiting, helping them revamp operations and kickstart things back into gear post-COVID.
And the location?
Eagle, what's it called? Egg Harbor, New Jersey. Happy to put you in touch with the ownership if you would like to chat.
Well, I'm also from there, so I'd like to.
Oh, no kidding. Right on.
Not Egg Harbor, but
Well,
the second thing, and you've just mentioned it again about Canal Park and other places you've been, let's say, in charge of. I appreciate that you got letters from people that most of us sitting at the table, if not all of us, know. And you always, always people put their best foot forward and their best people forward. What we didn't see and don't have is even, say, a letter of any kind of recommendation or good partnership or from Canal Park. And I bring that one up simply because you brought it up yourself quite a few times.
Oh, sure, they're local. What I was looking to do was to do things that were relevant to this operation and in the last few years. So I would be happy to put you in touch with folks I've worked with. That's not a problem. If you need letters of recommendation, happy to provide them. I actually did give references to the subcommittee, and I don't know if anyone was reached out to, but there are multiple people on there that can be contacted.
Okay, thank you. That's what I'd be after.
Sure thing.
Let's see.
And if you could just,
And the only other thing that this has nothing really to do with you or Dan for that matter, but in the past we were given the opportunity to get somebody a revolving loan grant, for a vision, and that vision just failed miserably in under a year. And I get worried about how my gut feels. I did not listen to myself the last time, and I don't want to make that mistake again. So I understand a vision. A lot of people have them themselves, especially in a business. But it becomes a trust factor, the investment. I know you live here, you're raising your family. I guess I'm just looking for the icing on the cake from you, because I don't want to make a mistake again.
I can't thank you enough for saying that, Mary, and I do appreciate it, because I know the city has had its headaches with that sort of thing. There's not a lot I can do I'm not independently wealthy. I'm not going to be able to do that for you. My track record speaks for itself, and it's up to you all to reach out to these individuals. I can't make that happen for you, but my track record is good. I think my vision is a fully codified one. I'm talking about moving a community forward and offering growth for everyone, not just me. This is not a me project. That's not what breweries are about. I don't know how to reassure you beyond that. You need to do your homework, and at some point, the city is ultimately going to have to take a leap of faith in me. I don't have a blank check here in front of you, and you're not going to receive that. I do want to move this forward, and I will move this forward with commitment from you all, but part of doing that is this commitment and being able to finalize my information for folks. I don't plan for failure, and I don't risk investors. It works against all of us. So with commitment from you, I finalize things, move forward, get people to sign on finally once and for all, and move this ahead.
So again, with your investors, and again, I understand clearly why you don't move forward with us publicly, but do you foresee, well, you wouldn't, but that whole idea of too many cooks in the kitchen. So, you've got your money committed, and then all of a sudden they're looking at, and how do you handle that? And does that leave you then short if they pull their money? And by pulling money, I also would like to ask, as we've had to do here in this city too, is take back property we've sold in the past.
Right.
And the penalties that you're willing to live with, God forbid.
No, I appreciate that. I see all kind of structures in breweries. So I see breweries that have one owner, I see breweries that have a dozen, I see breweries with investment groups. So we will fall into that realm somewhere, obviously. But part of that's the negotiations. What terms do we lay down? So that the city is protected, so that we're protected. Usually part of a business plan is also an exit strategy, which we'll write up with the investors, so that we know what's going to happen if anything goes sideways or anybody wants to exit.
Thanks, Mary.
You bet. Thanks, Mary.
All right, Tom.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. I'm wondering about your transparency. The first time we met with you, I think you said you were managing it, and I thought I'd heard that you were a consultant that went up in Duluth.
Oh, for Canal.
Right.
Yes. I'm sorry. So to clarify whether I managed or
Right.
consulted.
Yes.
Yes.
You said you managed it.
Yes.
And
yes.
we had heard, I think Max can confirm the fact that you were a consultant for it.
Actually, I was both. So at the onset of the development of the plan, I was hired as a consultant. So that was part of the business, writing the business plan. And then when I moved on to be employed there, I managed all aspects of the brewing operation. Make sense?
That makes sense.
Excellent.
And the only other thing is, like, we've had a lot of problems with that building and other buildings in this town. And it's over $2 million.
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole chunk of change.
Mm-hmm.
And my biggest fear is that you're going to start and then your investors are going to pull out, because investors have been known to pull out.
Investors have been known to pull out, not on my projects. And again, I don't know how to at some point you're going to take a leap of faith, and I don't know what else to tell you. I do understand that you've had things go sideways before, And again, part of a business plan is an exit strategy, and that's something that we will have. But to do this right is going to take some capital, and breweries are a high upfront capital. However, they do work.
How much of, excuse me, how much of that, the little over 2 million is the equipment for the brewery itself?
Between brewery and kitchen and those types of things, we're looking at a little around 600, about 600,000.
600,000?
Those are preliminary numbers, yeah. But pretty honed in. Which include all the peripherals. You need to understand that it's not just some shiny steel tanks. It's
right.
all the peripheral equipment, including boilers, chillers, transfer lines, etc., flooring.
And that's all I...
Okay, let's go
Thanks, Tom.
online then to Laura.
Alright, I'm gonna
There, she's unmuted now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, do you have any questions for Badger, Laura?
I do.
Hello.
Hi, Badger.
Hey.
So I'm curious about your vision is something that a lot of us are excited about, love. I had some questions about, just for clarity, about your background, because there were some things that were, I don't think intentionally misleading, but it was a little confusing last time. It's already been touched on, but it brought me to ask some questions around about history working with you, and I've gotten really good responses. And looking through this proposal, your letters of reference were impressive. You have so much support from community members, unofficially, from comments from locals that haven't written official letters, but the business people as well that I have a lot of respect for. There's a lot of support for the idea. There's a lot of support for you as a likable friend or associate, and that gives me a lot of confidence in. I really want to prioritize what the community is really, really wanting and supporting, and you have a lot of support for this. I do have questions about the what ifs, contingency plans if things fall through. So I feel like that's something we're going to talk about in negotiations and later. But I'm curious if you have considered doing this anywhere else, any other locations in the city or nearby. Have you thought about building from scratch? And is there some reason you've chosen this spot in particular? I mean, there are a lot of reasons I can see it being fantastic, and it's a great location and has cool history. But financially, have you looked at building new?
Sure. Most projects I'm doing are from scratch, actually. I prefer to do.
I can't actually hear you, sorry.
I'm sorry, is that better?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, yeah, most projects I've been working on are in fact new, but I think you said it yourself, it's location. So as far as Washburn goes, I think that we have great potential in that location to help with further development in Washburn. I think compared to housing, I go, well, I think we can put housing plenty of places, and there is need for that. I would never deny that fact. We do need that here. But as far as something that's going to grow the community and to augment the other businesses here, I see that location as crucial. And that goes without talking about the history of the building, in which we all have some love there. But I think the location is absolutely crucial.
The one thought I had was about that. Obviously, yes, it's an incredible location. And it makes a lot of sense for that to be somewhere people can walk to and associated with other establishments for eating, drinking, and visiting. But discussions always come around to directing some businesses down toward the lake, bringing a little more awareness and attention to where we are. And you've talked about light, and from the plans, it looks like you have some lake view, correct?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, yes. You know, what we see, I see that location as us being a cornerstone and catalyst to further development. And the drawings you're looking at, mind you, are conceptual. Okay, so when you see a giant sign that says beer on the front of the building, I hope you don't think that that's actually what's going to go there.
Someone actually thought it was going to say beer online, I noticed.
Not so
So
much.
thank you for clarifying that for them.
Yeah, these are conceptual drawings, so there is lake view for sure. The whole idea is to bring light into that space, because right now it's kind of a dark, dingy spot, and we want to lighten that up. We're not wanting to be a bar. I can't emphasize that enough. We are not just a bar. Brew pubs are not bars. They are central gathering spots for communities, and we're just getting back to what was done prior to Prohibition.
The reason I ask about new buildings is because of the amount of money you're looking at investing, and I've had conversations recently that give me confidence you have a good grasp on what to expect and how to plan for it. So that I don't feel uneasy there. But so I think about another location that might tie into the direction of businesses like Stage North, moving towards the lake, and if building new would be a viable option for you. But paired with that, I'm thinking about how quickly you would be able to get any renters into the upstairs as compared with somebody that is just focused on creating long-term renters, so that we can start to create some utility and rental tax revenue, whatever.
I don't know if I understand the question there exactly. Am I interested in
Well, in the timeline, I guess, one question was, would you still be looking at pursuing this business plan if you started from scratch building new on another location in town? So we'll start with that one.
Well, I see the location is imperative, because you know how difficult it is to get people off the main drag, and with I think the numbers I saw from the DOT are roughly 6,000 cars going by a day. I certainly hope to take advantage of that. I think that parking and green space that we'll offer there is something that's going to get people to stop in the area and hang out, and that's the spot. So I definitely see this location as key.
Okay. I'm also wondering then about how quickly you would be hoping to get any kind of renters into the space to help with anything for you or for the city income.
I understand the push for housing there, but again, when starting a
Well, I
business,
don't mean necessarily for housing. I just mean if you're looking at short-term rental,
the primary business first and foremost is the brew pub. So what's important is to get that operational, get the occupational, and turn that cash register on. So that's why if you looked at my materials, I had it in phases. I'm looking at getting up and running, and then giving a full year of operations to see, when's the best time during a year to start construction. I can speculate on that, but until I have hard numbers back, I wouldn't just arbitrarily start a project anytime. But so definitely as soon as possible, of course, but it just needs further information before you decide what's best. It's all about shoring up the success of a business.
Yep. All right, thank you.
Sure, thanks.
Okay, next we'll go to Jen.
Good evening, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Hi, Jen.
Great. Hi. Thanks for the presentation, both of you. I'm sympathetic in the fact that we're asking a lot of questions specifically for a lot of preliminary information before there's, committal. So I think we're probably both, the city and both of you are in kind of a position of not having a lot of information sometimes. I feel like your information is really good. My main question has kind of been asked a couple times on just the financial piece of it. I agree with Laura. I appreciate your community support and the effort that you put into your package and the information and your experience with running this type of business and knowing the ins and outs of that. I'm not worried about that either. I think one of the things, my main questions have been answered, but I have one left. I read through your packet several times. The main question that I have is your investors. You said that there has been some, in your materials, that there was some letters of commitment, and maybe I missed a little bit of that, and your presentation kind of went in and out a little bit for me in the beginning. Can you just review for me just the financial investment piece of it? I see that on 3/31, your investors committed. That's when you plan on in March that to be secure. But I guess I didn't see any letters in your package from investors, and maybe I just missed that.
Sure, you'll see several in there. One from Mr. Schertzer, Dr. Schertzer, another from OC Mechanical, another from ICS, all people I've worked with. And there are others that I'm not asking them to come on board until we have commitment. It's very difficult. And we have friends, family, neighbors, and I don't mean to be, I'm not trying to hide that information, but I hope you understand some people don't want to put themselves out there and then catch any feedback until there is some commitment. But there's at least there's 3 in there, and if the intent isn't outlined, maybe it's a little more subtle than you'd like.
No, and maybe that's just it. I mean, I see the one from I've been reading them, and I guess I read that they're, for me, when I read them, I see that they are very much supporting you, but the financial piece of it, I guess I didn't get out of a couple of those letters. So that's just what I wanted to confirm with you. Those are going to be most likely your financial investors at some level, and that kind of gets back to that question earlier, I think, from another council person of there will be multiple investors, and like you said, you don't know how many at this point. But I guess that answers my question. That those are some of those are your investors, and there is no dollars pledged within those letters. I just didn't miss it, right?
No, you didn't miss it. It's in there. It's a little subtle. Okay. And these are people I've worked with in the past, so there's where there's a little bit of a blur between, hey, we worked with this guy, we fully trust him, and yes, we plan to back this project. They're waiting in the wings to be involved here, and we don't have a final breakdown. Like, okay, to what degree when we get commitment and now we iron this whole thing out, who wants to do exactly what percentage do you want to be involved? Those are things I can't iron out right now. We're not at that stage.
Right. No, and I appreciate that, and I do appreciate the fact of being realistic on what we're biting off here. That remodeling of a building like this is no small or easy task. So I appreciate I feel like the number of in the $2 million range is probably something that you were looking at realistically with this building. So I appreciate that, and also having some builders taking a look at that, and also acknowledging that some of the numbers are in that realistic. So that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and thanks for acknowledging that as well. I did not shoot from the hip on this stuff. I have a few placeholders like anyone would at this point with regard to numbers. But I mean, I've had Jamar Corporation in, I've had Holmes Builders in, and OC Mechanical was in, amongst others. So when I do put a number out there, I am being realistic, and a project like this does indeed warrant that. So I'm not naive to it at the onset, and was not, and I'm just trying to be forthright and approach it to realistically. This is what it's going to take, and ultimately, again, it's asking you all to believe in me and the people that are vouching for me.
Thank you. Thanks, Jen. We'll move to Dave.
Hey, Badger.
Hey, Dave.
You mentioned you use 10 barrels of water for every barrel of beer.
Yes.
How many, just for clarification, how many gallons of water are in a barrel?
Great question. 31.
31 gallons of water per barrel. So 310 gallons of water usage per barrel of beer.
Correct.
Okay, do you have any estimation at this point, be it a conservative one, of how many barrels of beer you may start off with in your beginning year and year 5, let's say?
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks, Dave. Yeah, year 1 we could expect to do around 200 barrels, and in year 5 we expect to be 1,000 or more.
Okay, that's all I have.
Cool. Yeah, we are major water users, and for whatever it's worth, we have some of the best brewing water in the world here. It's awesome.
I agree.
And the more people drink, the more they flush the toilet. All right, Karen.
Badger, I too am excited with your proposal. It's really visionary and an exciting place, and I can see it becoming, that concept working into becoming a destination for people to say, we will stop in Washburn because we don't want to miss the brew pub. That oftentimes is what we fuss about in terms of people drive through and don't stop in Washburn. My questions are these. I'm still a little confused about the role that you have played in previous brew pub operations. Give me, if you would, an example of one that was brand new construction from the ground up, and what was your role in that kind of an establishment?
Sure, awesome. So one I could throw at you would be Cooley Brewing Company. And Cooley was up in Lethbridge, Alberta. And when they purchased their equipment, the fabricator, one of the fabricators I worked with, suggested that they reached out to me because they needed help with the design from day one. So they had not yet broken ground, and I went up there and did an entire assessment of, okay, here's what you're going to need for the brewing aspect of this. So we do everything from the ground up. It's all mechanical, all infrastructure, what it's going to take for the trades to install this stuff. Part of my background has been growing up in the trades. So I worked for a general contractor, I ran a roofing crew through college, and it was my ability to be this liaison between the trades and later becoming a professional brewer, let me be that person that could convey what needs to happen to both parties. And then, of course, I wrote a business plan that became Canal Park.
So in the Alberta example, you worked with a general contractor?
I worked with multiple contractors up there,
okay.
Yeah. The ownership, the GC, and what I would do is project manage the aspects of the building that were brewery oriented.
Okay.
So we had a 12,000 square foot brewing facility, so that was my responsibility.
The other aspect of this question, or the other half of the question, do you have an example of where you went in and were working with a facility that had to be rehabilitated, and what role did you play in that facility?
Sure. So Robbinsdale, Minnesota, we did Wicked Wort Brewing Company, and that was an old bank. And I went in with Steve Carlisle from OC Mechanical, who's looking to be involved here. And basically, again, I advise with all aspects that we're brewing oriented. So what's required here? What do we have to do? You know, it can be shoring up a foundation to support tanks. It can be what's the best flow to move things, layout, just everything from grain to glass and all the infrastructure, all the peripherals that are entailed in the.
Did you have any direct responsibility for the bricks and mortar, the walls, the windows, the rehab of the building itself? You talked about setting up the brewery equipment, I understand that, but what was your role, if any, in
So,
the brick and mortar?
oversight of that things meet what needs to be met.
Okay.
So I'm calling out saying, okay, this is what we have to build for or toward, and then I make sure that happens. Floors are notorious. So floors are usually the big one in a brewery, just for an example. But yeah, during the construction process, oversight of those processes that they meet what's needed. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
And again, Steve was one of the people that I think I provided the subcommittee as a reference as well. And he could clarify on everything he'd be doing.
My second question deals with the 6 lodging spaces that you've identified in the conceptual drawings. This sounds like it's something beyond what your experience has been. I don't think you've had experience in the lodging business. How would you propose to either gain that experience or figure out how to manage it, because it's a little different than a group home.
Absolutely, it is. Thanks. I got a little insight from my hoteliers that I worked with Rocky and stuff, but I know enough to know what I don't know. And my policy is always to bring in smarter people than me, and that's part of my key personnel placement. So we do have people we have an eye on that operate in this very field. Again, it's nothing I can put out there right now. But smarter people than I that are involved directly in lodging. And thanks for that.
Okay. Those are my only questions. Thank you very much.
Sure.
And then just to piggyback a little bit on one of Karen's questions, can you talk about your experience working with the pub aspect of the brew pub in any of your projects as far as restaurant?
Sure. Yeah. Boy, it's everything from grain to glass, and that involves anything from server training to physically making sure everything works right. We work in close conjunction with the chefs typically. So any cooks, chefs, we work in close conjunction with them, front of house people. It's brew pubs are those, they have many facets to them. And I've operated in all of them, from front of house to, I don't know how to better clarify that for you. It's sort of all part and parcel in one.
So you have worked with the brew pub aspect, not just a brewing aspect?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Throughout your process?
Yes, yeah. I say I'm just a humble brewer, which is true enough. I don't prefer titles. But brewers are jacks of all trades, and I purport to be just that and a master of none. But every aspect of the brew pub is what I'm responsible for. Branding, how things are served, service, how that occurs, what's the best way to put a foot forward with clients and customers, just every aspect of it.
And then have you spoken with Coco's and other businesses about partnering?
Yeah, so I reached out to Coco's and I've had no response yet, but I certainly reached out to them, and that could certainly just be the holiday. And yeah, so they're the immediate neighbors, and that is who I reached out to directly. Other businesses you have letters from.
Sure. Excellent. And I should have asked Scott this ahead of time, but is there an available liquor license?
Yes, we did.
So to answer that question, brew pubs would have be licensed by the state. Beer licenses, are unlimited. The only license that we have to worry about, of which we have one, is the hard liquor consumption on site,
Okay.
which is the quote Class B unquote type of license.
Thank you. I'm sure you had that figured out before you proceeded with this proposal, but I just wanted to make sure. Just one other question. Have you given any thought in the upstairs space where it would be an event space type slash lounge for a restroom up there?
Again, final build-out stuff, moving plans forward with John, but absolutely, we did mention it. The drawing doesn't show the sister bar up there or any of that stuff. We're
Okay.
just not at that stage.
Sure, and I know that was a real detail-oriented question.
Oh, that's okay.
I find myself getting into the weeds sometimes when I shouldn't, but.
Sorry.
I think everyone else sort of touched on the questions that I would have liked to have asked, so I think I'm satisfied. Does anyone else have anything else that came up in this first go-around? Oh, Laura has something.
Yeah, hi. I guess I wasn't clear on, maybe I didn't read it thoroughly enough, so I apologize if I just missed it. But this adjoining lot that has come up in the past as an issue, that is vacant. Am I understanding right that you already have an agreement to purchase it if you're able to move forward?
I do. I have commitment from Bill Rowling to purchase that lot. The minute you folks commit, I'm able to take it off his hands. We've known Bill for a long time. He's a friend of ours. He's worked with my wife Amy for some time. He is a longtime chef and resident on the peninsula here, and Bill is one of those persons we're using as a sounding board for laying out kitchens and restaurants. He put together captain's quarters for his nephew some time ago, if you recall that down the street. So yes, we have an arrangement upon commitment from the city.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Very good. Anyone else? I don't think so. The other question is, I see that there are a number of people on listening, and we didn't have a public comment agenda item. Is there any reason the council wants to open the floor to take any comments or not at this time? And it wouldn't necessarily be right now, but.
Yeah, does it make more sense to open the floor after we've heard from both and asked questions to Dan as well?
Yeah, just something to consider for now. So if there are no further questions for Badger, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
And I would ask Dan to please.
Oh, that's fine, Scott. Yeah, I'm good.
Take the stand.
Yeah.
All right. And again, I'm going to go ahead and start to my right here with you, Carl. If you have your questions for Dan handy.
The cost of the project you list is approximately $615,866. It seems to be pretty finite. Is there a contingency in there for any unanticipated expenses?
Yeah, we're also considering, 20% on top just in case something happens. And in an older building, you're gonna have it.
Okay, so there's 20% built in, or you have the ability to?
We have the ability for that.
Okay.
What we're doing is we don't have any investors. It's just, it's the two of us. My girlfriend and I are the ones that are gonna finance this whole thing.
Okay. And I see a letter there from the National Bank of Commerce for a loan for $350,000. Is the project contingent upon getting CDI development loan or grant?
The grant, yes, it is.
Okay, so you would need the grant in order to go forward with the project?
Well, for everything I'm looking at doing and for the sustainability of the project, yeah.
Okay.
And when we were on, we did a Zoom call with the state on that, for the grant. And the sooner we make a decision on it, the more of the grant is available. The longer we wait until the business plan and everything is committed, and the numbers can dwindle on what is available on that grant.
So you're assuming the maximum amount of grant is $250,000?
Well, one should, right?
Okay.
I'm just, yeah, no, we are.
Okay. And, I think you mentioned the revenue stream would initially come from the apartments and then...
Well, and the neat thing is if we, because I run the numbers on loans just to see on the commercial side what it takes. And I mean, with the profitability of the 4 apartments up on top, a loan of $350,000 with principal and interest is going to be about $1,900. So at $800 per unit, I mean, I'm running $3,200. I still have room left over for taxes and for utilities.
And how long do you anticipate a return on investment for this project?
Well, I'm looking at completing the project in about a year from the time that we receive the building. And I'd be looking at trying to, well, of course we want to profit right away, but I would imagine that it would be about a year's time until we'd start really pulling a profit out of it.
Okay. You're talking about developing the commercial space yourself?
Yep.
Operating that? Okay. That answers the question I had. And what are you asking the city specifically for?
I'm asking for the building
Okay.
and winning lottery ticket numbers. That's it. Scott said he had them, so.
Your site plan calls for the use of the lot on the corner there. Have you had any discussion about acquiring that lot?
Yeah, I talked to him before our first meeting that we had, and what he's doing is he's holding out to whoever gets the building is who he's going to sell to.
Okay.
I mean, I've worked with him. He goes down to my aunt's house and does some gardening and stuff with Kent Seidel. I mean, a very nice gentleman.
That's all the questions I have.
All right, thank you, Carl. Mary?
Okay, so it was pointed out to me that your timeline is a bit aggressive.
And it should be.
Okay.
Well, I mean, that's just the way I operate. I mean, with most banks, what they want to see is they don't want to have to extend a loan after 12 months. So they're going to want to see as much, they want to see that project done in a 12-month period.
So I know your work over in Ashland, and you said you've worked on buildings over in the cities area. In comparison, where's this building size-wise fit for you?
Personally, it's about twice the size of the Beezer Fire Station, but at the same number of units that I'm finishing. So I can run all my numbers because I've already built those 4 units. I can tell you exactly what they're going to cost. And then it's the commercial space down below, and the commercial space down below is actually one of the easier parts of it because it's basically doing energy walls and lighting and utilities, which is that's the easy portion.
And going back to Carl, you're planning on running that, managing that, and you're not looking for people to come in and use that?
Oh, no. I'm not going to rent out the space. What we're going to do is we're looking at basically about 4 full-time positions and then a handful of part-time help, especially summertime for, younger students and stuff like that would be perfect.
So are you thinking sort of like a mercantile of some kind, or?
Yeah, I keep I just fall back onto like the Ben Franklin.
Right.
But I look at the study that Washburn put out in 17, and I can go right down that list, and that tells me basically what type of products we're looking at and having, available for people in town.
Right. Just on an off chance, would you consider anything like that's down in Hayward? There's that one, they all look like individual stores, but they're all under one roof.
Yeah, I was actually working a project like that over in Ashland at one time, and I had, it was me and another investor, and we were looking at very similar to that, but with everything going on, and then it kind of fell through. But we were looking at having, almost like everybody would have like a 12 by 12 or a 16 by 16 room, and have like an outside facade on the inside of the building. So it would be like a bunch of little shops that look like it was the outside of buildings.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I didn't notice an elevator anywhere for anyone. Where does that come into play?
Well, I'm trying to avoid an elevator because right there you're talking at about $100,000. So, and depending on the use, because that building was originally used with apartments up on top, and I'm trying to go under that facade of it.
Thanks, Dan.
Yep.
Okay, Tom?
So you're saying you're gonna get that done in a year?
I would sure hope so. Yeah.
Well, that's a whole lot of work in there.
Yeah.
I know you're gonna be doing a lot of it yourself, that's why this price is.
No, actually, I'm going to do a good portion of it, but I also have teams that are coming in. I have a contractor. That's what those numbers are.
Well, yeah, I see that, but I mean, still, you're doing enough of it by yourself to.
Well, you know me, Tom. I always do a little bit here and there.
I think housing is, we do need the housing.
Yeah. And I think the housing is, honestly, an 1,100 square foot unit. That's Jiminy's. That's bigger than most of the house. I don't want to say most, but it's bigger than some of the houses that are in town.
That's almost as big as that one on the end of the alley down there.
Yep.
But I do know, there's one of my neighbors, she's like 76 years old, and she wanted to rent.
Yep.
But there was nothing to rent. So she ended up buying the house on the corner.
Yep. The last apartment I had available, in 2 weeks I had 14 people with money in hand ready to rent. That was in Washburn here. It was my duplex up on 3rd Avenue.
And another question, how long do you think it would take you to get your store running downstairs?
Right around the same time frame. The company I'm working with right now does turnkey operations where they come in, set up the camera system, the shelving systems, the POS system, which is point of sale systems, everything. It's turnkey. Once I just need to give them the space and they finish it off.
Must be all new windows and stuff on the downstairs.
All new windows and doors, new storefronts, everything. And I'm looking at doing energy walls on the exterior of the building if possible to try and keep some of the heating costs down.
That's all I got.
Okay, let's go online again. Laura, do you have questions for Dan?
You know what, could I pass, could you come back to me?
Sure. How about Jen?
Hi, Dan.
Hello.
Thank you for your presentation. I appreciate it. When I'm looking at the chart of the mercantile, I think you have a lot of experience, obviously, with the apartments, and we've had quite a few people that I work with that have stayed in your place that you've converted to long-term rentals over in Ashland, and I think you're really solid on all of that piece of it. So my question is the downtown or the downstairs rental area. What is your experience in that kind of, I guess, since you say now that I guess originally I thought you were going to have spaces for rent, for some different businesses to come in. And now I'm hearing like you're going to, you're thinking about starting a turnkey type of like general merchandise. Can you just go over your experience with that type of an investment?
I absolutely have none. That's why I'm going to be bringing in a manager to run the store, and then we'll be handling all the books and all the accounts receivable and payable.
Okay.
And the people that set the store up, they come in with all the experience for training and everything too, for on how to run the store.
Okay. And then in terms of the overall estimate, again, I see everything in there. I just feel like comparatively, when I'm looking at the two, and I know they're totally different guts and different things that are going into the building, you know, 2.7 million versus 560,000. There's a lot of work to be done in that building, and Richard Abel keeps popping into my head. You know, he redid that brownstone, and I hear him say when the city purchased that, he kept saying, boy, you guys have no idea what it takes to, you know, renovate a place like that. And so I know you have experience with that. Can you talk a little bit about your experience with this type of a building and your confidence in terms of your estimate, you know, your estimate of how much it would cost? And, you know, I see that you have, you know, committed to that investment and that you're looking for the grant opportunity to round it out. Can you just kind of go through that a little bit about what your experience and how confident? I know you got 20% in there, but I still feel like it just seems to me like it's low.
And I can see that with the other numbers that you're comparing it to. When I redid the Beezer Fire Station over in Ashland, that ended up being roughly right around 50 to 60,000 per unit. And so that was about $240,000 is what that cost me to remodel, and that was 4 total units with new HVAC per unit, new water heat, new water services, new everything brand new in that building. So I mean, you take those numbers off the top, and that gives you another, what is that? Is that 3 or what is it? Yeah, like 400,000 to finish the downstairs, which is basically windows, doors, exterior walls, and redoing the flooring. That's a substantial amount of money, and I'm boots on the ground. I'm right there doing the work, and I talk with my contractors. I don't go off of totally what the print is saying. I listen to my contractors, and I'm like, all right, how can we do this economically and still have the same product at the end? Because a lot of times it looks good on paper, but it doesn't really look good on the job site. I mean, is that kind of what you're looking for? Or what do you, I mean, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, those are just kind of the things that's going through my mind. My last question is, one of the things that we hear a lot about is accessibility. And when we talk about not having an elevator and all of your units being on that top floor, any discussion on accessibility? And I mean, that's gonna limit in terms of who can rent up there if we're talking steps and going up and down. So that's just another thing I wondered if you thought about that.
Well, and I've also, I mean, if you remember the last time I was here, I talked about maybe leaving available, if need be, a unit downstairs on the main level that I could do an ADA compliant apartment if need be. I'm not against anything. I mean, to me it's fun. I mean, I enjoy it.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's all the questions I have.
Thanks, Jen. Let's go ahead to Dave.
On your plan here, there's nothing shown for the building attached to the side, that smaller building. Did you have any plans for that?
As of right, I mean, I got a hold of the people that did that drawing and got it to me. I talked to them on Wednesday, and they were out of town, so that was all drawn up today. But that's just a general location. I have not put any thought really into the little building yet. I didn't know if maybe that would be something for cart storage, or maybe some type of rental space for another type of a business in there. I haven't really thought about that little one, I'll be honest with you, Dave.
Okay. And, have you given any thought to how much inventory is gonna cost? I mean, have you run numbers on a general merchandise business?
Yeah,
As far as profitability?
yeah, and basically for the numbers for it's going to be right around the it's about 150 to 170,000 just in inventory, and then it's going to be right around 25,000 for setting up shelving and POS systems.
I know that the list here that we've gotten from the city shows a lack of supply for that particular line item. And I've done, in the last several years, it's a little bit of a hobby of mine to figure out why. And I just want to make sure that you understand that you're not competing with Ashland or Bayfield or Corny or Cable. You're competing with Amazon, eBay, and there's a reason why the supply is short, and it's because the numbers don't work. That's my concern. So I just want to make sure when you jump headfirst into the general merchandise realm, you understand these sort of businesses are closing all over the country. I mean, I only know of one Ben Franklin. You keep mentioning that.
Well, the only reason I mention that is because that's what used to be in town.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Ben Franklins don't exist for a reason. So that's my concern. I just want to make sure that you understand that's not going to be an easy nut to crack on Main Street of Washburn.
Yeah, and we've given a lot of thought actually to it, and that's where it comes to listening to the general population and listening to surveys and what you guys have come up with too. You know, what type of products do we want to see in there? You know, maybe we start out as a general merchandise and all of a sudden we're going into local products that somebody might want to be selling llama scarves or whatever inside there. We don't know until we start, and then we adjust, adapt, and overcome.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay, Karen?
And of course, you've hit the nail on the head in terms of the need for housing in Washburn. We've talked about that a lot around this table, and your plan certainly begins in some way to address that. I want to go back to the question about the elevator, and I do not know what the provisions are of the grant that we've been talking about, but sometimes grants do require have ADA requirements, and that might be something, and this one may or may not, but just something to keep in mind.
Yep.
Because that may be something that if it's, lodging or rentals, that it has to be accessible, and thus, did you say $100,000 for an elevator?
Yeah, that's right around that number.
So that may be something that needs to be included in your business plan.
Well, and what I would do in that is instead I would take and shorten up the retail space down below.
You have space to deal with it.
Yep.
It's the money involved.
Yep.
No, I understand. I know that you have spent time looking at the building and the integrity of the building, and your estimates. You know, there have been questions about whether those estimates are too low, whether there's more to be done. Did you look specifically? Well, I'm sure you did. Is it the status of the foundation? I thought that there was foundation work that was going to be somewhat expensive to address in terms of rehabbing this building.
And a lot of that stuff's going to be more addressed as we get into the building a little bit deeper. It can look bad at one point, and then you get into it, and all of a sudden you find out it's not as bad. Or it can look really good, and all of a sudden you open up one little spot, and you're like, oh my goodness. So that's why we're trying to put in that 20%. And that's what I'm going to rely on my contractors as we're in there too, and we're looking at stuff on how to shore stuff up and how to make things so it's going to be a long-term building.
Okay. And again, you've been in the business of rentals, so I'm sure you considered in terms of the floor plan for the second level, the 4 units are all single bedroom units, correct?
Yeah, single bedroom with, I think I'd have to pull it up, but I think with an office space or an upstairs living room on it too.
And did you consider a different configuration? I mean, because that limits again the kind of renter you're going to have. A single person, couples, roommates, not families, obviously.
Yeah. And some of that stuff is going to be tweaked a little bit. I'll be honest, I mean, I did this plan in, I think, less than 10 days. So it was coming up and measuring up and getting a plan to you guys. So it was, we didn't have a whole lot of thought that could go into it, but this is I mean, I do like the layout. Can we add maybe another bedroom or something here and there? We probably could.
And again, as Tom's question talked about, persons who are older, who are in a 2-story house with a basement, are looking for accessibility and ease in lodging or in rentals. But in that case, then, if it is a person that's older, you're going to have an elevator.
Well, and we would, but I mean, what we're trying to do is we're at least trying to tackle some of the demand for housing.
And it could be young couples or an individual too. Those are the only questions I have. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Laura, can we swing back to you? Are you ready?
Yes, hi. Yeah, the only reason I passed is because a lot of my original questions I had been thinking on for the meeting was revolving around that, as I understood it from the first presentation, that you had, you even had some people or businesses in mind for who might rent or use the space downstairs, and you would build with respect to what they wanted to do with the space for their business. You know, was that sort of the original plan? Was I misunderstanding that?
Well, we were working on the whole store aspect of it, but I didn't have solid numbers, so I wasn't going to come to you with something that I couldn't come follow through with. So I had to wait until I got my numbers and everything in line, and I knew what I was up against before I could, you know, present to you with that. And if that would have fell through, if the numbers would have been too high and it just didn't look right, but with that grant coming out and everything else, I mean, a lot of this has fallen together because of that grant, I'll be honest with you.
Okay. So I should have led with that I really do appreciate your energy and your enthusiasm and your willingness to take it on, and your love for this city and your history with it too. It means a lot. And I feel like, same as before, I think that those connections and I guess relationships, people that you'll rely on for support, it will make a huge difference when you make this kind of commitment and get into such a big project, especially when things come up that maybe are going to go beyond the budget you anticipated. I do feel like the plan is a little vague. which I really feel like if it weren't being compared with any other plan, it would be really easy to support you and see you go through this. And I honestly feel like this is a very safe way to go. You have experience with remodeling, and you are flexible with what you want to do with the space. But I would like to hear a little bit more about what backup plans you might be willing to go with. If you considered other businesses or other, have people come forward to ask about renting the space from you, for instance, for the retail space, before you had formulated this idea of running a mercantile of sorts?
I had a couple of people that were interested in asking questions, but nothing really ever, was concrete. And it's kind of a hard project to say, yeah, you can have it, and I don't have the building. That's a hard one to sell on anything. But no, if you guys have some other opportunities that you're willing to discuss with that lower spot, I am all ears. I would love to hear what you have to say. I'm going off of what I see with with the study, and what I think, and just talking with family and friends and seeing what the town needs. And we need to, kind of make the downtown a little bit more vibrant. I mean, we need to hold on to some people into this area. When we get campers coming into town, I mean, we got to have little things that they can buy here instead of having to always go to Ashland and spend their money. So that's kind of why I went along with the retail spot. I mean, I think it fills a big need for the community. I think we get a lot of people that talking about it. I don't know. Is that answer kind of what I'm kind of jumping around? I'm not opposed.
I mean, it kind of does, but I guess what I'm getting out of it is that you don't really have anyone that you can say you've had some even rough conversations or some ideas you've spitballed for investors of sorts or people that are excited about any opportunity to work with that space as well.
When I visited this back, oh goodness, what was it, Scott, 2-3 years ago when I was talking with you guys on that? We were, because Scott was bouncing off different ideas of different people that were calling up the city looking for rental space, commercial downtown. I mean, I'm not opposed to any of it. It's just I haven't really had the time to kind of sit down and go over all of that yet. But I keep falling back onto the retail spot. It seems to me like a good solid venture, and I'm actually excited about it. I think it's something that would really pull the town together on.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, just to tie in a couple of other things that people have touched on. So the retail numbers that you put out there as far as the inventory and the shelving and that, is that in addition to the construction cost that's listed?
Yes, that's above and beyond. The construction cost that you see is for the building, the facade, and the apartments upstairs.
Okay. And then my initial thought when I saw the number that you have here for the construction seemed low for that building. How much of the work are you doing yourself versus having this company do for you?
Well, they're a general contractor, and they come in. I'm right now. I'm toying with having them basically kind of do a little bit more of the drywall and the framing end of it. The demo side is what I'll have. I already got lined up asbestos abatement teams. I got that lined up. And the mechanicals, I'll be working with local contractors in the area. I mean, I've already talked with Dave Blakeman on for heating and plumbing side of it. It's just hard to get these guys involved until you actually own the building.
And then as far as the apartments, definitely, I had the same concern about it being a one-bedroom in each of those instances. It sounds like that could be flexible potentially. I think that is a definite concern, you know, the demand that is there is, I don't know if it's been studied what the demand is for, if it's more families versus, I know that there is a big retiree population, but then the steps become an issue. So I think that will become a little bit of a quagmire.
Well, and again, with those apartments, I mean, I can't solve all the rental problems in town.
Correct.
So, I mean, but I think we're putting a pretty good dent in, and giving some good inventory for the rental area.
Sure, just to make sure that matches the demand. I guess there's so much demand that anything you do is going to need some of it.
Yeah.
I think that's all I wanted to circle back with, and everyone else has asked the questions that I had. I'll go back to Karen.
I have a follow-up.
Sure, absolutely.
And hypothetically, and I'm not saying that retail operation wouldn't be successful, but hypothetically, if retail operation is not successful, what might be the cost of converting all or a portion of the first floor into an apartment?
Well, is that something, I mean,
no, I'm going.
Because I mean, I love the question. Trust me, I deal with rental properties, and I love that question. I would love. I mean, I would honestly say that depending on the size of the building, I'm looking at right around again the $45,000 to $60,000 range per unit that I put down there.
I would just, again, I think that one of the questions were, you know, maybe retail isn't going to work, and rather than have space empty on the first floor, I just was hypothetically saying, well, okay, and I don't mean to be a downer, but I'm just.
No, trust me, I love it, but I mean, I love rental properties. It's worked for me.
Are there options for that space is what I'm saying?
Well, but I mean, the city originally didn't want any rental properties on the first floor. That was, from the get-go, that was, that's the way we're, yeah.
I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm all for it.
Okay.
Just to address that particular point, zoning code is a little vague on part of that. We would be able to consider rental units on a portion of the downstairs, but certainly not more than half of the downstairs.
Okay. All right.
All right.
You got me all excited. I was ready to go. Yeah. Dang it. Now, that's my buzzkill now.
Half of it.
No.
Did anyone else have any follow-up questions? Seeing none, we'll move to a closing statement, if either of you would like to do that.
Was that an option to ask a question from the public?
Not yet from the public, Jeremy. We have not opened the floor yet.
Can I make a motion to open the floor?
You can make a motion. Let's see if there's a second or if we would rather wait.
The question was, should we have closing statements, right?
I was going to move it to closing statements, yes.
And then take public comment?
Potentially, yes. It sounds like there's maybe a question there, but.
Maybe the public would like to hear the closing statements before they make.
That's what I was envisioning, yeah.
Laura, is that okay?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, thanks. I just didn't want it to slip past.
No problem. Okay, so we will go ahead and proceed with closing. And Dan, if you could go first then.
Okay. In closing, I guess that's all I would say is I'm looking at taking the building and turning it into apartments with a retail space down below, as I've discussed. And with my plan and everything else, it's a survivability of the building, with the rental properties being able to sustain the whole building. So whatever venture we end up with downstairs, I mean, I love the whole retail end of it and want to give it a shot. But the nice thing is we're going to be able to maintain and sustain that building. It will never be boarded up again, as long as, you know, I follow through on my plan. And the neat thing is everybody at these tables and online, they get to make that decision. They're the voice of you guys voting on all this, and everybody coming from your districts understand the need of the community, and you're their voice, and which is great. I think it's a great opportunity for the public and for the committee and the city of Washburn to see what the next stage is going to be for that building.
Thank you.
Yep.
Badger?
Hey folks, thanks again. Basically, in closing, I'd just like to, one, say thanks, but two, I want to address the fact that I think you're all questioning my ability to get this done. And again, at some point, I'm asking you to take a leap of faith. I've certainly created a vision here, and I brought these visions together in other communities. This is what I go around and help do. I've done this in there are examples in communities of 1,800 people, 2,300 people, 3,500 people. Breweries can be a codifying part of the community. They bring folks together. That's what I'm looking to create here, something that is community oriented. There wasn't a lot of my in my speech. There wasn't a lot of I. It's about everyone. And I'm trying to move Washburn forward in a positive direction that helps grow other businesses. I think there's a halo effect to what I create, and I don't want to see that overlooked. The numbers I brought to you are solid. They're not done yet, but they are solid. I'm not naive about these projects, and I brought in some big folks to give me solid numbers. We will also be working with local contractors as well, and that's something that you should know, but we're not at that stage yet. And if I'm to hold timelines, I may need big operations to do just that. I don't know what else to say other than I'm asking Washburn to take a leap of faith with me, and I see very little to lose if we work this out in negotiations, so that if my project doesn't move forward in a given amount of time, here you go. I'm not asking you to take that risk. I'm trying to take that risk with my investors, and I'm trying to minimize that risk by putting forth a good, solid business plan. I need to move to the next steps and finalize it and do just that. I'm hoping you move things forward with me.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it very much. Okay. Laura, do we want to revisit your motion?
Yes.
All
Will
right.
we open the floor for public comment?
There's a motion from Laura to open the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Tom. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, the floor is open. Was that Jeremy who had a question?
Yep, thank you, Mayor. I'm sorry to interrupt. I wasn't sure what you said, so pardon me for jumping in
No problem.
earlier. Just a really quick question. Badger was asked if he would consider an alternative location, and I don't know if Dan was asked the same question or not, and if he was, I'm sorry I missed it.
That is a good point. I don't know that you were asked that question. Do you mind?
I was not asked the question, but I do not want to look at another spot.
You are not interested in alternate locations?
No.
Okay.
Can I piggyback on that question, because I was thinking about one that I had not repeated earlier either. That's one I had missed, so sorry, Dan.
Go ahead, Laura.
But I'm also curious about the adjoining property. Did you have some kind of deal already committed to for
Yeah,
owning the
I
vacant
talked
lot?
with him, and he's waiting to see who gets the building, who he sells it to.
Oh, okay, so he's prepared. I got it.
Yep,
Oh, thank you.
yep.
Okay, is there anyone else from the public who would like to either make a comment or ask a question? Is there anyone in the chat, Tony, that you can see?
I do not see anybody. All hands.
And I do not see anyone unmuting themselves. And then, was there any comment submitted through anyone from people ahead of time or something? I had heard that maybe something was going to be submitted somehow.
We have received no questions. There were some comments that were included in the packet. We did have one email that came in late that I did distribute from Gina Marie Anderson, who wanted to be on record as supportive of the proposal from Badger.
Okay, thank you.
I move to close the floor.
Second.
Motion by Carl to close the floor, second by Karen. All in favor?
We have,
Oh,
we have something in the chat. Yeah, we have one person that'd like to make a comment in the chat. Nicole?
I will.
Yeah, hi, thank you. Sorry, I didn't know if I was supposed to jump in or not, so thank you for taking one more second. I just wanted to ask the question around the plan for housing and apartments, and just wondering specifically what that brings to the city of Washburn, and how it builds the community up and sort of attracts, people from all over, as well as gives the community kind of something to rally around.
I don't know if you want to answer that, Dan, or if you want me to answer that.
Go ahead.
I'm just going to jump in here and say that the need for housing is not something necessarily that would be used to attract people to the city. The need for housing already exists. And so I think that the housing part of a proposal would be to address the existing need, not to attract people to the community. But if anybody wants to add on to that, please.
With that, I'll add on a smidge. I get a lot of calls from, even from the Coast Guard up out of Bayfield, and they're always looking at coming into Washburn for rental properties. And I think what it'll do is it'll actually bring more. I mean, if I have 4 apartments, it's going to bring 4 more families or 4 more individuals into town. So it is an attraction that people are looking for, because the cost of housing in Bayfield has risen a smidge, and Washburn is the next community with a great school and a great downtown. So it's a small family that everybody's seeking.
Does that answer your question, Nicole?
I'd like to comment as well, if I could.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Go ahead, Badger, please.
So there's definitely a need for housing here. I don't think anybody's denying that in Washburn.
Yeah.
But I think, there's something that's being overlooked, and that's the idea of what I'm proposing is bringing dollars into Washburn, not shuffling dollars around. I see new money coming in by what I'm doing, and I see jobs coming in. And I think that needs to be given a little traction. And I also appreciated the idea that, I was asked would I consider another location, and I feel that location in particular is imperative. It has all the potential in the world to help Washburn grow, and I appreciated that someone asked Dan and he's not interested in locating anywhere else. To me, I'm not saying it's disingenuous, but I think that if you're looking to address the housing need, that can potentially be done elsewhere in Washburn as well. Whereas my location, it is imperative that it be in that spot.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, anyone else before we vote on whether to close the floor? Sorry, we didn't see you there, Nicole. All right, seeing no one, all in favor of closing the floor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and the floor is closed. Thank you, everyone, for your time, and I am going to move us on to the next item for consideration. Does anyone want to make a motion to go into closed session?
Move to go into closed session.
I'll second that.
Now, just to clarify, to make sure that we're following the law for why we're going into closed session, it would be to negotiate offers. That's one of our...
Yes, it's on the agenda here. Considering offers related to the sale of city property pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 1985.1E.
Okay. Thank you. I didn't have that part on my agenda. So we have a motion by Carl, second by Tom, to go into closed session to negotiate. All in favor?
Aye.
Excuse me,
Yes.
that does need to be a roll call vote.
Oh, thank you.
Can I ask something before we vote, please?
Sure. We have, yep.
I'm wondering if, Scott, you think it would be prudent to explain a little bit in reference to the question about the value of rental housing, aside from the need for it, how it affects the tax incremental, the TID district. It's hard to grasp, I think, for most people. Would you think that'd be helpful as an answer to why rental property, and no matter where it is, but the question was asked in open comment.
So you think there was a question that was asked that was not answered fully? Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah, I was just thinking about how there were comments made about having 15 years left in the, I feel like I'm getting this wrong with how I'm explaining it, but the TID district and how it benefits the community and the taxes from utilities in housing and rental benefits the city directly for so many years. I mean, is this not sounding familiar? Does anyone know what I'm?
Maybe we can.
I think she's asking, Laura, if I may, the different benefits between having 4 apartments on the second floor, what that benefit is to the city as far as tax revenue versus a brew pub with hotel units.
Right. That's where I'm going with it. In if there is a limited amount of time that we can benefit more directly from income from housing,
I don't know.
If we turned over units faster, what the benefit is in taxes.
So the TID benefit is property tax.
Scott, just, there's currently a motion
Yeah.
to go into closed session on the floor. This is a matter that can be discussed in open session, so if this is something that should be discussed, you want to, I'd recommend withdrawing that motion or voting on that motion to go into closed session. But this discussion and these items
Sure.
are not needed in closed session.
Okay, so are you fine with us just proceeding into closed session, Laura?
I am, unless Scott actually wants to explain that to the public.
I don't think that's necessary at the moment. So let's go ahead with our roll call vote.
Yep.
Dave Anderson? Yes. Harold Broberg?
Yes.
Jennifer Mazias,
Yes.
Mary McGrath,
Yes.
Tom Nymus,
Yes.
Karen Spears Novacek,
Yes.
Laura Tulowitzki,
Yes.
all in favor for closed session at 8:15.
So if anyone wants to be notified when we go back into open session, please leave your number with Scott and we will call you. And anyone who is online, we're going to have to ask you to go offline and then I'm not sure how we'll notify you when we're going into open session. Karen?
Just a question for clarification. Is it true that we may or may not come back into open session?
We will,
Do we have to come back to open session to adjourn?
it says if necessary.
If you make a decision on going forward with one developer tonight, that has to be an open session.
Right.
And if the issues that Scott was asked those questions about, those don't fall within the exemption for closed session. So if any of those general public purpose discussions are going to be had, those would be an open session.
So we may or may not come back into open session, and we may or may not choose who we would pursue a development with.
Correct, that was my question. Yes. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Matt.
Is there a timeline that you guys are looking at notification of people?
You're talking about to the general public?
No, to the developers.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we don't know that at this moment.
Okay.
But it will be forthcoming, one way or the other. We'll let you know.
Either tonight or tomorrow.
Either tonight or tomorrow.
Okay, so within the next 48 hours? we'll know.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Madam Mayor, this is Rick Olivo from the Daily Press. I have an editor who's waiting for some kind of statement from me about what happened or if nothing happened. Could you please, at the end of the meeting, have somebody call me
Yes.
to let me know?
Yes, absolutely. At what number, Rick?
My number is 715-685-4135.
4135. Got it.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I will be signing out now.
Very good. Thanks, Rick. All right. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate it.
There was also a question in the chat of who is included in the closed session? Was it council members only?
Yes.
Correct. And court counsel, or the city attorney, and staff.
Thank you.
All right. How are we doing online? We'll have to have everyone log off, please, except for our two counselors. Will we know if we are, if you go back into public or open session?
It'll be back broadcast again, right?
Well, we'll be keeping this on. This is the difficulty with closed session on Zoom. Otherwise, we'd have to close this meeting and create a whole separate meeting if we just want.
Is there a waiting room?
Yeah, is there a waiting room, Tony, for this?
No.
Oh, that's not good. Someone could pop in at any moment?
Yes.
Okay, so if we could please get Barrett, iPhone, Mark Beeksma, and
I shut this off.
2922441 to sign off, please. We are going into closed session. Thank you.
I think that I can. Oh, I do have a waiting room option. Look at that.
Oh,
So then people can join the waiting room and you just let them back in.
darn.
Okay.
Right.
I'll have two people on.
All right, so whoever's on, do you want to be put in the waiting room?
I'll just do it.
We're doing it. Head to the waiting room.
There you go.
And just for the record here, this Zoom automatically records, so that's the only recording. I gotta shut this down 1 second. And we gotta turn off the TV too.